Hello, good evening, everyone. All the wonderful newly qualified chartered accountants, welcome once again. Welcome once again into this yet another day of our Career Catalyst program. Welcome to this Catalyst program once again. Today we have with us Sanjay Agrawal ji, the Central Council member from North, and today we'll be talking about audits, stat audits, internal audits, and system audits and forensic audits. So people who are interested into this, what is their career option? How can you opt for these kind of career? And what is the growth that you can see? You will have four experts talk about that. But before that, I request Sanjay Ji Agarwal to please address all of you and share his wisdom. Over to you, Sanjay Ji.
Thank you, Arpit Kavraji, uh, for this nice initiative on Career Catalyst. Uh, Let me tell you about the audit. Uh, we have said in 2021 that audit is a serious business. So uh, the time is going to come where the audit is going to be one of the excellent payout. Today, people think that audit is not that paying, uh, you can say, profession. But a lot of people are doing or getting not only the stat audit, but they are trying to get the audit for the specific profitability, their processes improvement, and internal audit on various things. So these are the things for which the audit is not now known as something new. And then especially the AI tools which have come here, and for that the new technology, new tools which have been developed. So this is something you can say that it's a changing horizon from the in the past. So with this, I wish you all the best for your endeavors. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Sanjay Ji. And I'm sure, with regulators like NFRA also now looking over audits, audit has become a very serious business, and therefore, more the risk, more the responsibility, and better the returns as well. So to talk about this, we have our first speaker with us, CA Padma Shri Krashto Madam, again a senior partner and a senior audit professional from a large consulting firm. We welcome you, Padma Shri Madam, if you are around. Sandesh,
Yes,
if
yes.
I request you to please introduce Padma Shri Madam.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Sandesh.
So
Hi,
we
Arpit.
now move to the first technical session. Hello. Hi, ma'am.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, hi.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sandesh, we can hear you. Please
Yeah.
go ahead.
We now move to the first technical session on statutory audit. It is my privilege to introduce CA Padmashri Crasto, partner in MSKC and Associate LLP, BDO International Member Firm. 20 years in audit and quality, specializing in audit quality initiatives, regulatory reviews, and risk management. Active speaker at WIRC of ICAI, Western India Regional Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and contribute to ICAI publication. Ma'am, we warmly welcome you and request you to kindly address the participants. Thank you. Hello, Padmashri ma'am.
Over to you, Padma Shri Madam.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing my screen in a
Yes,
second.
madam. Yes, madam.
You have to make me host.
May I request the technical team to please
Hmm.
allow Padma Shri Madam to share her screen? Yes, thank you. Madam, you can share your screen now.
I will need only half a minute to just switch the device. Sorry.
Oh, sure, madam.
Yeah. इसी पे चल रहा है जूम खुला है
So to all my friends who have joined us here, today is our day 3, and we're talking about audits today. Tomorrow will be another exciting day, and we have interesting discussions lined up on due diligence, strategy consulting, business consulting. We have speakers from McKinsey and BCG who will be addressing us. Very experienced chartered accountants will be talking to us about due diligence, transaction advisory, and all of that tomorrow. And after that, we have one of the most coveted, one of the most sought after roles in industry. That is the FP&A, payables, receivables, financial accounting, all of that under one. So we have a very, very expert. We were actually a CFO who will be taking you through the FP&A roles. We'll be talking about emerging CA roles. We're talking about ESG, IPO advisory, and many other things. So that is how we'll be working on this. And last, we'll have a GCC, Global Capability Centers, offshore accounting, and a lot of other opportunities available to chartered accountants. So make sure that you join us for 5 to 7 again every day, evening 5 to 7. And I'm hoping that you are preparing yourself for your interviews. Our campus placements are starting very soon. A lot of companies have already lined up. And this time the campus looks to be very promising, with around 7,000 plus chartered accountants and a long list of companies who will be hiring from various locations in the country. We'll have a good time there. Yes. Over to you, Padmashri, madam. Yes.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet. If you can just share your screen once.
Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
No, madam.
Oh, I don't know. Can you see it now?
We can see you. We can see your window. But
Can you see now?
yes, now we've got your screen. Yes. If you can just change, if you can change the window, madam, we can see your Zoom screen right now. Yes.
Can you see it now?
Your PPT. Yes, madam.
Is it better? Yeah. Sorry for the technical glitch. Sometimes, you are in a hurry and it is inversely proportionate to what you want to do. I was in a conference. As Arpit was saying, it is a conference of CII, which is actually pertaining to all this audit quality and all the NFRA and other stuff. First of all, thanks ICI and thanks to our dynamic past WRC chairman as well as CCM now, Arpit Kabra, who is also my dear friend. Thanks a lot for inviting me to share my experience, thoughts in terms of stat audit. Here I think few of the things that I want to just bring it into perspective. First question that everyone has, everyone that lurks around, the thought that lurks around everyone is that stat audit is very boring. Don't go for stat audit, look for something else. This is the first thing that I hear from the youngest generation now. I'm not saying that I'm very older on a lighter note, but then, it is what it is. Generally, kids discuss these days, but don't go into statutory audit. This is very, very boring. It doesn't have any pulp. You won't get much over there. It is boring and things like that. So just wanted to give you my perspective of how I survived in this from 21 years, right? So this is the title that I thought from a overall perspective, how I see stat audit. It is from the holistic vision to being, future ready. How you can be matching up your expectations and your perspectives on what it is and what is it that you are going to see in the perspective. First of all, why statutory audit, right? So the first and foremost question that you get is why there is a statutory audit and why I have to be part of statutory audit. All said and done, it goes without saying that whatever you do, auditor has got his own value, and then auditor has his perspective and all the if you go for a tax return, if you go for some deduction, if there is a disallowance, one thing that the income tax officer will tell you, get an auditor's certificate. You want to apply for a tender, something that the entity tells you, apply a statutory audit, give us a statutory audit certificate. So it is like a trust, backbone of the corporate trust that we build in, right? That is one of the most important attributes. It protects investors as well as creditors, more so because of the lot of things that we do and lot of audit procedures that we do. It ensures transparency in financial reporting. It builds credibility, reputation. It is a strategic governance tool. There are many sayings by big amenities, larger persons who have always mentioned that audit as a very eminent profession or a respectful profession due to all these reasons. It actually enhances your investors' confidence, and also it strengthens the India's corporate credibility globally. So wherever the audit, so one thing let us understand. So there are two sets of standards, right? We have Ind AS, we have accounting standards, and then we have globally IFRS, and we have different countries, different gaps. Now, all said and done, we have auditing standards which are almost unified. So, international standards of auditing are the standards of auditing that we are using. Okay, so this is all too much theoretical, you might think, and then I may not be sounding very sensible to many of you. So, just to see that how do you, look at some of the statistics or data in terms of why I have to be in audit. So this is something that I have taken it from ICI website, and I think Arpit will be in a better position, Sanjay ji will be in a better position to evaluate or bring more credibility into it. But then this is how it is, and these are the things that you have to look into when you are looking from an overall perspective of audit. We have total members who are actually. Hello, can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
Madam, we can hear you. We just lost your screen actually. You just come back on that screen.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I have joined from another laptop actually because my
Okay.
device is a little bit dying.
No problem.
So can you please make this host, please, if you don't mind?
Tech team.
It has to be PPT. Just one second. So basically, you all may be thinking that this is too much technical or jargon, and whether it is making sense also to look into all these things, and whether I will be actually looking into all these things. It makes more sense when you look at from a holistic perspective, and when you look at from a auditor's angle. So yeah, can we see the screen? Can we see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thanks. So I think one of the things is that you have all these so many members per se, but then how many are into practice is something that who are actually out of any registered firm or anywhere, and then there are who are into audit is very less. So when we talk about percentages, it's very less. We have larger firms with more than 5 partners, which is 5 to 7%. So when we have 5 to 7% of the entire firms, which is basically 1 lakh firms, which has only 5 to 7% of firms with more than 5 partners. So basically, we are seeing that smaller firms are doing audits, but then they are still struggling to do the larger audits. And with so many regulators coming into place, you need larger firms, you need cooperation. So IC has also come up with this networking guidelines and stuff like that, which is all a technical stuff that you will look into. Audit has got a huge opportunity because everyone needs audit, unless MCA says that you don't need audit to grow in future. So there is a lot that you can do in audit. Now, what are the things that I can see in audit, right? So if I have to see in audit, I have different sectors.
So audit is not boring, and audit is not something that is a very small or a niche place. It is a very large place. So you can specialize in maybe BFSI, which is banking, finance, insurance, NBFCs, mutual funds, which is a very sophisticated line. We have insurance, then we have manufacturing companies where you have lot to learn. Ocean, it's a big ocean where there are so many things that you have got to learn. There is IT and tech industry, there are service industry, and once you're strong in your audit, you can audit any industry. Often I have seen people telling us that I have done only manufacturing audit, I don't know BFSI. All you have to do is that all of us, I think 98% of us come from a manufacturing audit background only. So once we do manufacturing audit, then we can switch on to anywhere, because all you have to additionally do is understand the typicalities of the business, and then understand some more RBI circulars, and you are ready for the next thing. Because any day is new day, and you will have to start up with something. But then you have something to offer, and you can audit, or you can give that perspective to anyone. Let me take a very small example. When we grow up, obviously, when you are younger, you may not be wanting to go for social gatherings, for shadi, for weddings, for receptions and stuff like that, right? But then when we grow up, we end up going into all these social functions and things like that. There will be, say, a group of people who are talking about IT. There will be a group of people who will be talking only about some engineering groups. There will be a group of people who will be talking only about bank or insurance. So, if you're an auditor, basically you can fit into any of these groups, and it can make sense to you, and you can understand, because there is a larger perspective that you have understood. Because when we do the audit, we actually understand the industry, and that is a foundation, or that is something that is very helpful for us to actually go up to the next level, or pick up anything in the entire profession. Few practical insights. You go to client visits for people who love to travel. Actually, to most interiors to abroad, you can go anywhere where your client has a plant, or your client has an office. That comes with a positive side, that also comes with a negative side. You might go into an interior where nothing else but only factory made food is available, or you might go into US, UK, where your client has a partner, or where your client has a plant or a specific place. So it's interesting. And when you visit these places, when you learn new perspectives, there are new things that you actually come into perspective. Factory or site visits. I have, throughout my career, I think I have cherished or enjoyed this. When you do factory or site visits, one, not because they are treating you as special, obviously. It is more because of you have so much of learning. When you go there, when you see there is more to learn, and there is so much to talk about. So today, when you talk about a chemical manufacturing plant, today you talk about bank, counting of notes, going to a treasury vault of a bank, going to an insurance company, reading a claim documentation, where maybe you get sad when you see that someone has committed suicide and then they are paying the claim. Or when you have inventory verification, discovering some frauds, discovering some erroneous things, discovering some different things. So every day is different, and every day is an experience in itself. And we also say that no audit is similar to others. So if you have heard the saying that, when there is a snowfall, every snowflake is different. So audit is like that. Each snowflake is different than others. There are no same snowflakes, or there are no two same audits. So this is very insightful and very helpful. Exposure to interactions, exposure to different interactions. So you have a lot of interpersonal skills that comes into picture. You you will learn how to speak to juniors, how to speak to the different type of people, in the sense seniors, to partners, to CFOs, to CEOs. You get to interact with board members also at times. You get early access to many of these things, and this actually on an overall basis shapes up the behavior of a person on overall basis. It actually helps everyone to do so much of behavioral upgrade also, because when we sit across, when we see, we learn a lot. Hands-on verification is always interesting. Yeah, when I started my articleship, maybe it was semi-manual, I would say. Some of the things were manual, some of the things were automated. And now it's more automated, less manual. But still, there are things that are very, it can be beautifully done. It can be well verified. It is very interesting. So data analytics, for example, is one of the pieces of audit. You can actually analyze the data, use the tools, you can make the data speak to you. It will give you new insights, it will give you new perspectives. So it is how you like and what you like. So we generally ask, like, at the end of the completion of articleship, or something, when there is a send off, or when the person is leaving or going to another firm or something, generally say, what is your favorite area of audit? So the standard answers that we get is either revenue or inventory or ECL calculation. So, people who love Excel will actually love ECL calculations. Inventory valuation is something that's super complicated in some of the manufacturing companies. And then it's very challenging to learn segmental allocations. So these are kind of things that are, super helpful to understand and kickstart your brain functioning at full go, I would say. Sectoral insights, you get a lot of insights into what is happening across, like in banks, how is the provisioning made, what are the things that happen in a bank. When you step into a bank, you may have always stepped in as a customer, maybe have gone with your relatives, parents to look at certain functions. But when you step behind the counter, you understand a lot about how the bank functions and how much is that they have to do to put all that perspective into functioning. Manufacturing, there is inventory, as I mentioned, IT, revenue recognition, insurance, actuarial assumptions. That's again a very insightful and great thing. And the new IFRS 17 coming in, or the Ind AS 117 coming in, it has made the world more interesting. Knowledge gain. So whatever you have learned or whatever you have thought about is not about accounting standard, auditing standard. You must be wondering, but where will I put this into use? Is this of real use to me, or is it not of use to me? So it will come to use. There are complex principles, maybe an ECL calculation, maybe an advanced provisioning, maybe an RBI circular. Anything that you do is all actually happening there in front of your eyes, and you can actually value add when you go into a calculation sheet. If you find the formula error, and then if you get an adjustment done of whatever amount, it's a huge gain for you personally, because you have done the value add for the firm, for your seniors. It becomes a big feather in the cap. And then you get the compliance expertise. So actually, when you become a CA, kind of, when you're doing a CA, then itself the relatives and everyone starts asking you questions about taxation, about various compliances. More so when you become CA, then obviously people will come to you with complex questions, right? So whether you are dealing in certain areas or not, they feel that the moment you say that, yes, I am an auditor, so even at the entry gate of a factory or at office, when you say auditor, he will say, yeah, okay. So it is a different feeling that is there. And audit is always considered as one of the noble professions, and it is, more and more getting respect in terms of the regulatory and other reviews. There is nothing to run away from the regulator. If you are selling food, then there is FSSAI. If you're selling medicines, then there are FDI. If you are selling any prohibited any other goods, there is municipal rules. So similarly, when you are doing audit, there is a regulator. So all this, every business has its own risk, and every business has its own regulator. For example, if you're selling insurance policies, you have IRDA as the regulator. So is like when you're doing audit, you have NFRA, ICI as regulators. So these are the things that goes hand in hand. One thing I would like to say, that there are lots of
Madam, we are not able to hear you. Sorry. Sandesh,
Yes, sir.
you able to hear? No, na?
No, no, sir.
Acha. I don't know. Presentation is on.
Yeah. Excuse me, ma'am. Padmashri, ma'am. Can you hear me? Thank you, ma'am, for the highly practical and insightful session to setting the tone of our today's discussion. We now move our second technical session on internal audit. It is my pleasure to welcome CA Usha Lakshmi Raman, Chief Compliance Officer and Company Secretary at Count Mutual Fund. She is a finance professional, CE rank holder, Company Secretary, and cost accountant with 30 years of experience in securities manufacturing industry. Prior to this, she was head internal audit at SBI Mutual Fund and the largest mutual fund of India. During her career, she has worked in various functioning encompassing compliance, internal audit operations, business transformation, finance and treasury in renowned organizations including Fund Mutual Fund, SBI Mutual Fund, JP Morgan, Indal and SEBI. He has managed large and diverse teams spreading across various locations both in India and globally.
Welcome, madam. Good evening.
Good evening, Ankit. How are
Yes, madam.
you?
Yes, madam. Was absolutely fantastic, madam. All the newly qualified chartered accountants, I think they can make a huge out of your experience. Why should they choose internal audit is something that everyone thinks. Is it something like a residuary career, or how should it be perceived as? So we would like to know from you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that introduction and thanks for having me here. It's such a pleasure to actually be talking to all the newly qualified chartered accountants. So, congratulations to all of you who are listening. I can't see any of you, but I'm sure you're all, smiling with joy with the newly acquired, prefix to your name. CA means a lot. So somebody was asking, does life really, change after becoming a chartered accountant? So I'm sure you agree. It doesn't just change; it transforms. Of course, you are yet to see, but from the day that you became a chartered accountant, I'm sure that people are looking at you with awe, a lot of more respect. And I remember a colleague of mine, telling me that he was basically seeing a girl, and as soon as he qualified, when he called up, he let his girlfriend's mother know that he has become chartered accountant and how her behavior changed, and then she was invited for dinner that night, and so on and so forth. So everybody gives a lot of respect because people know that this is a qualification which is not so easy to acquire. Something which I always say that as compared to other degrees, where probably it's just the entrance stage that it is difficult to get into. But for a CA, it is not only just the entrance or foundation, as you may call it now. During our times, it was entrance, and then there was an intermediate, and then a final. So every stage was a task by itself, was a lot of hard work. So congratulations once again to all of you. So happy to address all of you. So we here to talk about internal audit. Obviously, because I've been asked to speak about it, I will talk about it in a positive manner. That is one of the best functions to work for. But if you look at my career journey, I have done various roles, and internal audit was one of them, and hence I would like to speak about it. So let me just, I will talk about it through my career journey actually. So internal audit is one of the, very good, is one of the best functions to work for in my experience, because you truly understand the business in its entirety. It actually gives you a vantage point that actually very, very few other roles offer. So I qualified somewhere in my early 90s, and it was very common for newly qualified chartered accountants to be posted in the internal audit department in those years. So you stay in the internal audit department for a few years before moving to other functions. My first job was for Indian Aluminium Company Limited, which is now part of Hindalco, which is an Aditya Birla Group company. So it was one of a very large company, and I got selected into that company, and I was posted in the treasury department, a department that everybody loves to get into because that's where all the cash is. That's where all the money used to be managed. But even there, we had a system where every newly qualified chartered accountant had to had to go through the entire process of internal audit. So I had visited a factory. So Indian Aluminium, obviously, as the name suggests, is an aluminium company, and I was posted, or I was sent for audit for 2 months to one of the factories. The whole purpose was that you may be in whichever function, in whichever type of industry you are. As a finance professional, you need to know the business. In fact, not even as a finance professional, as anybody who works in any organization, you need to know the product for which, which product is that organization into. You need to know the details. And as a CA, furthermore, because if you are doing any type of valuation, costing of it, or you're accounting for it, or financing something, and you are going to the bank to pitch for a loan, in any case, you need to understand what that industry is into, what are some of the nuances of the industry, which you cannot get details by going to the internet and googling. You have to actually work in it to understand that better. Here I'd like to give you a small anecdote, just to make it a little lighter. So I have worked as an industrial trainee in one of the paint companies. So it was Berger Paints, for that matter. And I remember we had gone to, end of the year, we had to go for stock audit to one of the factory. So this is more of an anecdote, but I just wanted to make a point here. And the person, we all went, and one of the other industrial trainee, he was, so the basically paints are kept in huge tanks or barrels. And how do you measure how much? Because you're doing stock taking. How do you measure it? So you are given an iron bar which has got calibration in it, and then you dip into it, and then it will tell you till what is the level that is there, and based on that you understand how many liters of paint is there. So this person went, he was given that iron rod, and he just dipped into it, and he's also given a sheet which says which barrel contains how many liters of paint. And the first one, he struck that the quantity which was written, and then wrote the new number. And then he went to the second barrel, and much to his surprise, he found that the second barrel was also incorrect, and he did the same. And needless to say, that's why I'm telling you this anecdote. The third and the fourth and the fifth, all of them were incorrect. So he kept striking it off. And then the supervisor in the factory came to find that how is it possible that all of them are incorrect. So he came and saw, why is it incorrect? And he just took the stick. All that he did was he took out the stick, wiped the stick clean, and put the stick, the iron rod or the stick, the other way around, so that the calibration starts from 0, 1, 2 at the bottom and not the other way around. So this is just an anecdote, but I'm telling you that, internal audit may involve such things. So you should understand the business and you should understand what exactly you're doing. Of course, the person was a fresher. He knew nothing about much about it as a trainee, but this is an anecdote and I thought I'd make this whole thing a little lighter. So in my first job, which I told you was, in Indal, it was, we all had to go to factories and that helped us understand the business. We understood the different types of products which were there. Even in aluminium, it could be a rolled product, it could be brought into wires or a sheet or whatever it is, because each one had a different way of costing, the way it was valued. And that was so important when we were doing part of the strategic plan. So the idea was very simple. Internal audit basically exposes you to every aspect of the organization and it helps you to bring a very strong foundation. So, here we are talking about internal audit in a particular organization. Now, what if you join an internal audit or an audit firm? It could be one of those big fours, or it could be any of the Indian companies, which is what now everybody is talking about. So, we will probably very soon have big fours or big sixes or big tens of the Indian audit firms. What happens is every firm audits different types of companies, different types of industries. So it obviously enhances your knowledge about those industries. Only when you get into the industry do you understand the nuances of it. I don't know how many of you have ever visited any factory in your lifetime. If you have, great, because you will know that only when you visit a factory you know, okay, this is how a biscuit is made, or so many big biscuits are put together and a packaging is done. Or if you go to a tea packaging packaging industry, how is different types of tea made, how is it sieved? Sometimes it is like dust, sometimes it's a leaf. It could be different industries have different things. So only when you actually walk into an industry, of course these days are things are made very very simple, because whichever industry, you can just watch a YouTube video and you actually see it. But to get to know it better, you have to be there. So it helps when you see, when you audit, you understand different industries, which only enriches you. So it's not only the process, you get to know the product that each company is making, and that also helps you, because finally, most people these days want to get into different types of career in their, when they start off as a fresher, and I know there are certain career that people look for more. But what the point that I'm trying to make here is that through internal audit, you actually understand, you are able to see the entire process that the company goes through, and from that you are able to make a informed selection as to what you would like to specialize in your future career. The other thing I like about something that I really value in an internal audit profession is that it provides you the opportunity to interact with different types of people at a very early stage of your career. So obviously, juniors you would anyway get to interact. So people in the same stage of their career or a few years, older than you in the career. But I'm also talking about senior managers, because auditors are somebody who are taken very seriously. They are respected. They are taken seriously. So if there's an audit discussion, or if you raise something, so like I gave you the example of Berger Paints where somebody was, measuring paint. Finally, the supervisor had to come to check what the issue was, because the person on the shop floor was not able to address it. So you get to interact with a lot of senior people, and that is something that it's a big positive. I have to mention here that I have worked with another company called JP Morgan, which was later in my career, of course, which had a lot of exposure to global business. So this is another thing that a lot of you chartered accountants may want. It's investment banking. But do we really know what is investment banking all about? So through an audit career, you actually get to know, while it's a very broad term, or they want to get into core investments in say a mutual fund or in a stockbroking firm. But do you really know what it entails? What all does it go through? So through the audit route, you exactly see how a day in the life of an investment manager or a fund manager or a stockbroker. So every you actually see that through your own eyes and not through the lens of somebody else, and you then are able to take a very informed decision in trying to see whether you want to be in audit or you want to go into some other area. So it basically gives you a stepping stone into any arena of business that you may want to do. Here, I would like to mention that one may argue that once you've got into audit, it is always audit. So, audit, yes, but if you take my own, career, I have worked in different areas. Audit being one of them. I have worked in investment banking. So when I was in JP Morgan, like I mentioned, a lot of exposure to global business. I was part of the corporate and investment banking business. However, at some point of time, after spending more than a decade with the organization, I wanted exposure into Indian business. So, which is why I decided that I wanted to move out. And I was fortunate that I got an opportunity with one of the largest mutual fund of India. And I have to admit here that I was absolutely new into the industry of mutual funds. And I thought it was a very good opportunity for me to learn something. But imagine learning something at a fairly senior stage of your career. And what better way to learn that than in the internal audit? So I was heading internal audit team in SBI Mutual Fund, where I actually deep dived virtually into every process. One thing I knew that all that I need to know is the product. What is the product? Mutual funds I knew. Processes, did I know every bit of process? Not really. Did I need to know? Yes, fairly I knew what it was, but I had to get into the details. And I had to manage my people. So I had the opportunity not only to review the audit processes there of every process which was there, and hence I knew the mutual fund industry into every process, be it right from investments, where they make investments, how do they market it, or how is the valuation done, the NAV calculated, or what are the compliances. So I'll come to compliances separately because SEBI plays a very important role. So you name it, and every aspect is something that we have audited. And I had the opportunity not only to review and audit the process, but also to recommend improvements, obviously, where gaps existed. And that's the core job of an internal audit. So through this, I gradually learned the details and intricacies of the mutual fund business, which I don't think I would have got exposed to. Suppose I was in say operations, I would have only known operations. I wouldn't have known all the intricacies of the investment, how the fund manager operates, or would I know how the risk management or the compliance team functions? No, I wouldn't have known all that. So the other thing I would like to mention here is that I also got to interact with obviously a lot of people across the organization. Very closely I have interacted, and one of the plus was to interact with the board members, because otherwise you don't get entry into the boardroom, because you have to be a CXO and then you get entry into that. But being an, of course, I was one of the heads there. But if you are an internal audit head, then you automatically get access to the board through the audit committee meetings. How does that help? Somebody may ask. The more you interact with seniors, you get to know their point of view, because we all come with our own thoughts, processes. But when we hear from the others, there's a different angle to it, and it enhances the way we think. So you would find that through these interactions, a lot of focus was there on governance. So that leads me to the next item, that governance function today has become very, very important. So you would know that in governance functions, you have certain areas. You have the risk management, you have compliance, and you have audit. Internal audit comes as the last one. Risk management is something which is more recent, in the sense that when I qualified as a chartered accountant 30 years back. uh, there was no concept of risk management. Everything of risk and controls was all taken care of by the audit function. So be it statutory audit or internal audit. So something comes up, something fails. Why did it fail? More controls to be put. But now risk has become a very, very important area. And as a CA, we are best placed to understand the risk and controls which are in place, because this is how we are taught how to audit. And now, in fact, the regulators pay a lot of credence to what the auditors have to say. Here, I'd like to say in the mutual fund industry, basically the regulator is SEBI. In fact, a couple of years back, SEBI had brought out an entire circular on internal audit. What are the terms? What an internal audit is supposed to audit, and that is what that is a report which has actually replaced the inspection which SEBI used to do by themselves. So that's the sort of importance that even a regulator like SEBI is giving to internal auditors, because they are saying that you could do the job better than we do it. So, the entire internal audit function has been outsourced. Entire inspection function of SEBI is now being outsourced to the internal auditors of the company. The other point on audit itself is fraud detection and forensics. So part of audit, you will find fraud, which then leads to forensics. And it is all through control mechanisms. So how did the fraud happen? Some control failed. What could have been done better? So this could have been done better through mitigation of some of these things. So, one of the things that I would like to mention here, since we spoke about controls and fraud, all to do with audit again, is very often you may have encountered a situation, or some, if because you're too young and you're still learning to invest, your parents or your family members, somebody comes, a bank comes and gives a form to sign, and they would say, you just sign here. आप यहाँ sign कर दीजिए, we will fill the details. Now, that's a very risky thing to do. Two things that one has to always be aware of is, one, you of course fill your name, you fill your mobile number, and you fill your email ID. Never let anybody else fill these details for you. The reason being that this is a source of control failure, because what happens is, if it falls in the wrong hands, they can fill their own mobile number. You would have given a check to invest somewhere, and they could fill their own mobile number. They could fill their, the email ID, and through that they can change the bank account. So what happens is, you may have invested a sum of money of, say, 25,000, which will be redeemed after, whenever you want. All that they will do is to go and change the bank account, and then when the redemption happens, they will get the OTP and the funds will come to their account. So this is just a method I'm saying. In the process, I'm giving you a message. Whenever you have to fill any form, you can leave anything else blank, but please don't leave these two areas blank. So this is something which has come as a control gap in audits that we always see. Of course, these days audits are not just the audits that we knew earlier. Now, of course, even you have systems audit, and some technical. If you enhance yourself in technical side, then that also, systems audit is also a great area. The audits that you do, unlike earlier, is also using a lot of data. So data analysis is another area that you could work on, enhance your skill set, and the sort of analysis that you can provide to the management is immense. And that is through audit also, you come across some of these areas. So Through audits, basically, like I said, I have had a solid understanding of all the how the functions operate and why each of these functions are so critical. So when I moved into compliance, so today I serve as the chief compliance officer at Quant Mutual Fund. The role was absolutely new. So I must mention that I started my journey in the Treasury Department. I have moved to finance. I have done audits. In JP Morgan, it was investment banking, business transformation, operations, and various types of roles. And now I'm in compliance. So the role was absolutely new, but it was not entirely unfamiliar. How is it not unfamiliar? Because the foundation that I built during my audit years really helped. And I understood the intent behind the controls and the areas where processes are fragile or exposed. I also understood as to why SEBI has wanted that certain compliances be followed to the T. And it just gives you another opportunity. So it basically helps you to understand, like I said, the realm of business, which otherwise you may have had limited understanding. Another advantage of having worked in audit is the perspective that you get. You know, if you're not an internal, I mean, auditor, and you're now moved on from an internal audit function to some other function, when you sit with the auditors on the other side of the table, you totally understand the challenges they face and what they are trying to understand, and then you're able to have that constructive conversation because you've done it, so you exactly know. So, and also when you are looking at something, you exactly know what is it that they are looking for. It helps you to take issues to a meaningful conclusion. So in many ways, internal audit did not just teach me processes. It actually has taught me how these organizations really function beneath the surface. So I would like to mention here that internal audit is indeed popular. It's a rewarding career path for any chartered accountant who can focus on enhancing the organizational value. So you could do risk control, you will build controls around it, and efficiency. So it's a very strategic and holistic business operations. And even if you want to go into some other career path at a later point of time, to begin with internal audit as a career, is a very, very strong foundation that you're laying for yourself. With that, I'd like to conclude, unless I had questions.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Yeah, one question for you. How is technology and data analytics transforming internal audit process, and what skills should professional develop to stay relevant?
So you said data analytics and technology.
Right, ma'am.
So internal audit. So let me give you an example. Um, we have to keep cash. Every company has to keep cash. Now, they would have some sort of a cash. Now, we are talking about an era much earlier. How would you keep that cash? Or you want to keep some documents? Okay, you would keep it in a safe, right? Now, earlier, it used to be operated through a lock and key, a proper, just a key. But now, through a mechanism, now it has become digital. So it is this is also enhancing. So what is the control that you're using here? Ensuring that the password is not safe. Now let me come to another serious scenario. Basically, now internal audit, the way it was done earlier, it has moved entirely from what it was. It is now more of a what should I say? It is not basically the way it used to be, like a hounding the other person. Now you are working with them through technology. The various technologies that we use could be, data analytics is one of the tools that gets used. You have various control measures which use, and through technology. Now internal audit without technology is something which is archaic. So we have to use technology when we are doing, and considering data is immense now. So for example, in my organization we have 1 lakh folios. Suppose we want to check in the audit process whether everybody has updated their nominee details, which is a requirement as per SEBI, and how many people are there, or say, where it is not updated. Then one way to do it is through a data analytics mechanism, through a query, rather than running an Excel worksheet, because the data point is something of more than 1 crore line items. So it's going to get very difficult. So technology is something that one has to embrace as one goes on. So that was so yes. So audit becomes easier and more effective the more you use technology. Is
Thank
there
you.
something else you asked me?
No, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am, for sharing valuable industry's perspectives. Thank you so much.
Hi, if there is any question on stat audit, I'm sorry I got dropped off abruptly because of the network connection. If there is any question on stat audit, please let me know.
Padmashri, ma'am, one question for you.
Yeah.
What are the common audit observation or qualifications seen in practice, and how
Hmm.
can they be effectively addressed?
See, the question is twofold, right? One is common audit observation. Where does that come from? It comes from various types of reviews, regulatory or otherwise. All kinds of reviews, it comes from those, right? So when there are common audit observations, this is nothing but collation of various observations or reviews or regulatory matters. And then there will be solutions to each of these kind of things. For example, FRRB has published a report which says that four things are common observation. CARO clause number 4 is not properly reported. So then we will have to put an effort to understand what is the observation and how we can resolve it. And this goes from case to case basis and also from industry to industry perspective. And we have to take a very concentrated effort towards understanding what is the issue. And maybe, it often happens that there are multiple facets of the same issue. You may be interpreting it in a different form, regulator may be interpreting it in a different form. So then you need to have adequate appropriate audit evidence. Sufficient appropriate audit evidence is what we call, to come to a conclusion. What is important in audit is not only applying the professional judgment and professional skepticism, but it is also important to document what you thought at that point in time. Because today, in hindsight, maybe you may be thinking that this can be done in this manner, that manner, hundreds of manners. But that day, what was the situation, and what is it that you did matters the most. And you have done the audit opinion on the basis of that. So it is very important to look at that perspective and document that perspective. And that is how you can actually effectively evaluate and remediate all those common observations also, and then grow up in the scale to meet the expectations of all the stakeholders, maybe regulators, shareholders, investors, everyone.
Okay, thank you so
I
much,
just
ma'am.
wanted to
Thank you.
add something.
Please, please.
With respect to internal audit. So we have now, it's internal audit also has undergone metamorphosis from a watchdog to, internal audit is now a change agent or a value creator. So compliance and control based, they are compliance control based players. They become a strategic partner. So they work very closely with business. So it's not like a separate function. They work with the business to ensure that they actually create value. And that is the reason you have to move from traditional audit to technology based audit, because it's a VUCA world. There's a paradigm shift in the way we see things. The world has changed. So for some of there are a lot of disruption, like we are seeing today. And you may not necessarily have everything in paper. It has to be digital. So very important to move the way we audit. So the metamorphosis is like a butterfly. One form fades to give rise to the new form. So we have to be a change agent or a value creator as an internal auditor.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We now come to our next session on system audit. It is an honor to introduce Anand Prakash Jangir. He is a recognized leader at the forefront of applying AI, machine learning, and data science of regionalized finance, audit, and risk management. As a chartered accountant and CISA, Anand experts is even in his role of managing partner at AGA and chief change agent at AGA Labs.ai. In these capacities, he's spearhead innovations across India, North America, and Japan. Anandji, please over to you.
Thank you very much, Sandeshji, and thank you very much, Arpit Bhai, for this opportunity. Friends, I am actually at the airport, so there would be some disturbance in between. My sincere apologies for that. But let me, Arpit Bhai told me that I need to address you. I wanted to basically review and talk to all of you. So just give me 1 second. So there was a little bit of disturbance of background. I'm sorry for that. Don't worry. I hope I am audible, Sandeshji, without.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So, friends, what we are trying to tell you is already ma'am was talking about the VUCA world and all the changes which are happening. Now, I want you to understand one very important thing here. That is how all the world is changing today. Okay. And these changes which are happening, I want you to remember one very important thing called, have you heard about a term called outlier? There is a book which is written called Outlier. And this Outlier is a very interesting book written by Malcolm Gladwell. If you get a chance, you should actually go through it. This book actually mention about one thing, that how the world is changing and all that things, which is just a moment. There was a lot of disturbance there, so I'm changed my location. My sincere apologies. But anyway, friends, I just wanted to share five key points with all of you, and then we will just call it a short. I don't want to disturb you too much with a lot of gyan and all things. But what I would like to tell you is IS audit. This is something which is very close to my heart, because this is one of the things which has changed the world today. See, all of you understand one thing. I come from a small and medium firm, but when I worked in that one, I used to basically mostly focus on one thing, that okay, have I done tally audit and all the thing. But when I went into the corporates and other things, I understood that we need to understand that the IT system is trustworthy or not. Now, this is an opportunity which most of the CAs don't go for. See, this is an area of work of IS, because IS audit is predominantly an audit, and audit is something which is very close to our heart. The world around us. The first message I would like to tell you is, you read a book called The World is Flat. Today, if you are actually still doing the traditional audit, I would request you to go to, I'm sure you've heard about something called NAFRA, and there is another body called PCOB, which is the cousin of NAFRA in US. And they have come out and said that why are the auditors doing only sampling? Why can't they do the 100% of the review out there? Now, if that is the expectation from the regulators and all the thing, globally, don't you think there is going to be a lot of change which is coming our way? Point number one. Point number two, I would like to tell you one thing. A lot of CA student, they think IT is not our cup of tea, and that is a very big mistake. The world around is changing, and AI and IT is something we need. In the IS audit domain, it is very important that you develop your mindset. And there is no one better than us. As Sandesh ji was introducing me, you would have seen I have worked in many corporates and all things. One of the key things where chartered accountants bring a lot of value, which we should appreciate, is our knowledge of business. It is not the analytical skills which you may be thinking it up. It is the knowledge of the business. And if we can actually use it, there is nothing which can stop us from basically getting into the area and building up a great work and a great career in this one. Third point, which is very important, there is a big shortage of information systems auditor, because you need to become purple people. Have you heard this term called purple people? Purple people is a term which is told about people who have dual skill set. What dual skill set? They have skill set from a perspective of business knowledge and technical knowledge. If you like, I'm sure you would have heard about this concept of drawing and other things which a lot of people have been talking about. In drawing, they will tell you there are three base colors: RGB, red, green, blue. If you miss color red, it is basically showing about the business knowledge. There is another color called, I don't know if you've heard about the blue color, which is called as the technical knowledge. See, you've heard of a term called blue collar job. Now, in the given situation, what has happened is, when you mix the color blue and red, what is the color you get? You get the color of purple. Today, the skill set, we already have it. We have to move towards the thing where we can become a purple people. And friends, you will be shocked that there is a big shortage of that. I will be like to share a small document with all of you. And this is something which I share it many times in my sessions with, have you heard about future of job report? There is something very interesting. There is a, thing called World Economic Forum has come out with something called future of job report. And this report is something very interesting. I'm sharing my screen for your review. Just give me a second. I hope you are able to see my screen. This is the future of job report, 163 pages. You can review the report at your leisure whenever you're free. I will not go too much into that, but I want to show one special part of the report, which all of you need to understand. Let me share with you. You can see this, friends. Right now, the report is taking some time to load, but I'll tell you, it talks about top 20 jobs, increasing demand and decreasing demand. And when I saw this report in 2020, and there is two more reports which are there, 2020 and 2025, as CA who have just passed out and you are out of the market, you should actually see that, because it clearly says that plain vanilla chartered accountants are going to have a little challenge. And when I'm saying it's not me, it's a globally, they are talking about accountants and auditors. You will see it in a moment when the report gets loaded. Now, in that kind of situation, don't you think it is very important for us to look at a career which is not for today, but for a very long term? If you're looking for that kind of career, this is the future of job report. You can see it's 163 pages. If I go to page number 30, I still remember it very clear. It actually talks about the top 20 jobs in demand. I will put it in front of you on the screen what I am talking about. Can you see a section called decreasing demand? You see what is the item number 3 and 4? Decreasing demand globally. It says accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll. Now, this is a kind of a question we should ask us, that what is changing? The change is here. Can you see these are the areas on data, AI, machine learning, process automation, and can you see this area of point number 8, information security and information systems? This is the area which is increasing. So don't you think we should be going into the sunrise sector, not in the sunset sector? This is a report I wanted to show it to you just to give you an idea about what is changing. And in this kind of situation, it's very important for all of us to understand and appreciate this change around the world. Last point, friends, I will always try to say this one. Imagine you are asked to come and audit books of account which is written by pencil. Would you do that? No. That's the point which is there. IT or information technology systems or IT systems are somewhere the books of account written by pencil. You would have seen MC came out with a kind of requirement that we would like all of the certification done for audit trail. Now that itself calls how the importance of IS audit is improving. Few things I would like you to look into is cybersecurity framework from SEBI, IRDA requirement, RBI requirement, and all of them. Now, there is a very good career which you can make up in this field if you are ready to start scratch. When I say scratch, we know that this is something which actually help us a lot in terms of updating and understanding it out there. So my submission to all of you is this is an area of practice as well as area of employment, both. If you are looking for a career, there is nothing which is better than this, which you can actually look into and take it forward. I would wish you all the best in this area. And in case you have any questions, you can reach out to me at anandjangir@gmail.com. And I would like to support you on this one. The reason I didn't, though I was lack of time and all thing, and Arpit told me, I said this is very important for all our fresh chart accountant to understand. It is not just FP&A, investment banking, and all the thing which is part of the thing. There are a lot of new areas which you can explore, and it is as exciting as you can think of. So, friends, as I have to just get into my flight and all the thing, they have already started the calling for last thing. I would like to just leave you with two very important things. First, at the beginning of my discussion, I talked about one point called the concept of outlier. Outliers book is something which taught me a lot. A lot of people ask me, okay, can I do CISA? Can I do DISA? Is it enough? I would say everything, all certifications in time to come are of no value. Mark my word, I'm using it up. Certifications are of no value. It is your skill set which is important. Yes, certification gives you a basic understanding on expectation. Are you ready to learn, understand, and then add? For that, you need to remember one term called the 10,000 hour rules. All the big shot like Bill Gates and all things, they never became Bill Gates because they were lucky or anything as such. They were actually able to do that because they have put 10,000 hours in that. You guys have also become chartered accountant because you have put it up 10,000 hours of time in doing it up. So if you can add this kind of time and effort into that, we will see an amazing, change in terms of how you are handling it up on that. And the second thing, I know you would have all heard about, the gentleman who was the billionaire from Alibaba. And Jack Ma told one thing, till the age of 30, all of you should be doing a lot of mistakes. Do mistakes. Don't try to go for the traditional same 9 to 5 job. See some exciting areas and look into that and take that forward. Okay. So I wish you all the best and really appreciate this, chance of 20-25 minutes I got to share my thoughts with you. And please let me know if you have any questions, any doubt. But back to Sandesh ji for this. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Okay. Sandesh ji.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for sharing valuable industry's perspectives. Thank you.
Thanks.
We now come to our last session on forensics. It is an honor to introduce CA Durgesh Pandey, has over to decide to specialize experience in investigation audits, financial integrity surveys, fraud risk management, and behavior analysis. Further strengthened by his tenure as Professor of Practice at National Forensic Science Institute, University, India NFSU. Dr. Pandey has trained law enforcement officers, chartered accountants, and corporate leaders through more than 800 sessions across 35 plus countries, mentoring over 20,000 professionals and investigating more than 200 financial crime cases in collaboration with agencies such as an Directorate and the Anti-Corruption. His global contribution include leading India Desk for UK-funded study on transport border frauds and conducting forensics audits and workshops across Asian and American regions. Established him a leading expert in forensic investigation and dispute resolution. CA Dr. Durgesh Pandey is a distinguished chartered accountant, certified fraud examiner USA, and PhD holder in financial forensics. Sir, we warmly welcome you and request you to kindly take the session. Sir, you unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, congratulations to all the freshly qualified chartered accountants. I do have a small presentation, few slides I would like to show, and then we can have probably question and answer if the now no more students, if the professionals have some query. Let me share my presentation. I hope the presentation is visible. The presentation is visible to you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, very briefly, I would like to explain here as to what is the financial crime landscape in India and in the world, around the world. Why are CAs structurally they are positioned to lead? Why are chartered accountants in a very unique position to lead? What is the employability? That is, what are the roles? What are the sectors? What are the salaries that are going on? The skill set that is required, how the ICAI credential helps, and so on. Okay, that we will be deciding. So the financial crime landscape, why chartered accountants, what are the skills, the domain of financial crime, and the ICAI's ecosystem where ICAI helps and where ICAI supports. Now, if you'll see on the screen, you'll notice that this is the regulatory landscape in the country right now. So, enforcement directors attachment and PMLA prosecution is rising year on year. SFIO investigation expanded post IBC reforms, Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, the Serious Fraud Investigating Office. SEBI's enforcement orders are significantly increasing insider trading, fraud. RBI is having severe the non-performing assets and the AML regime, anti-money laundering regime, the deficiency notices, all these are significantly increasing. NCLT and NCLAT in case of IBC insolvency cases and in case of corporate disputes, forensic report, they are ordering the forensic report as a standard practice. Again, if we'll see in the anti-money laundering domain, AML domain, that is part of the financial crime, we have 1700 plus GCCs operational in India. Significant compliance functions, HSBC, Standard Chartered, Deutsche Bank, Citibank, Goldman Sachs, all of them are there. They are hiring AML experts, financial crime investigation leads, because India is the delivery hub for the global FC operations. Now, I'm sure our members are aware about something called as FIU. It is called as Financial Intelligence Unit. Like we have, crime intelligence, drug intelligence. Similarly, we have Financial Intelligence Unit. Now, FIU is headquartered in Delhi. It sits in Delhi, and then it collects whole lot of intelligence information from various reporting entities, REs. These entities are called as REs. These entities, all of them, they file something called as CTR and STR, cash transaction report and suspicious transaction report. I'm sure the participants, the members, freshly qualified members, they must have seen that in their articleship that there are something called as CTRs and FTRs. And they have been significantly growing, CTR, significant growing STR. That means people have become vigilant. The financial landscape of the country has become vigilant, and it requires skilled professionals. PMLA reporting entity is expanded. So there are something called as reporting entities under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, where such reporting entities have to file CTR and STR. So those are also increasing. Advocates, though, are not in reporting entity, but chartered accountants and company secretaries, they are in the reporting entities. Virtual digital service providers are added, real estate, jewelers. All this has increased a significant regulatory burden on the entities, on the companies, where they require specialized and specific qualifications from professionals to help them in navigating this business crisis. Now, the moment we discuss about financial crime, we again come across a thought: why chartered accountants? We are discussing about financial crime. Why do we need chartered accountant, or what do chartered accountants do? Please understand, the chartered accountants, they have a unique positioning because they understand the bank. Now, for all those, I'm sure forensic is now being debated and understood a lot. But for all those who don't understand what is forensic accounting and investigation and how it is different from forensic audit, let me clarify and demystify that for them. The profession what we have in India and globally is called as forensic accounting and investigation. There is no concept like forensic audit as per the standards issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So we don't call the practice as forensic audit, and it is called as forensic accounting. Now, why it is called as forensic accounting and why it is not called as forensic audit? It has a logic for that. See, audit is a subset of accounting. So when we talk about accounting includes audit. Ironically, in India, accounting means bookkeeping, but that is not the case. So when we say accounting, it also includes audit. Audit is a subset of accounting. And globally, this practice is called as forensic accounting. That is why we call it forensic accounting. Now, coming to a situation why and how chartered accountants are placed uniquely and why this is a great opportunity for chartered accountants. So, first and most important, we have a very strong understanding of the finances. Chartered accountants, they read numbers like nobody. I mean, they are so strong in reading the numbers. And please understand that most of the financial crime that happens, say money is transferred from account A to account B, from B to C, from C to different jurisdiction, from different jurisdiction it is converted into different instrument. That instrument is again brought in India. This multiple layering which happens. It's not possible for somebody who's not having financial expertise to unravel this mystery. So this unlayering of these transactions is not possible by somebody who's not having strong financial understanding. So this financial literacy that we have, this puts us at a very strong pedestal. Next, we have the regulatory credibility. Now, what do we mean by regulatory credibility? Regulatory credibility simply means that the qualification is recognized so much that we can be expert witness, we can testify in court of law. Our saying, our report, it holds a lot of weight. The courts value a lot when we come in capacity of experts and testify that this is what actually happened. We have that knowledge and understand how the record is created, how it is maintained, or how it is manipulated. This is very important. This is very important because ultimately we have to make a financial flow. Now, we have discussed so much about forensic accounting, but to simplify, what is the meaning of forensic? So forensic means forensic means, the word forensic has come from the Latin word forensis. Forensis means acceptable before a court of law, acceptable before a forum. This forum is court of law. So what is the purpose? What is the purpose of a forensic professional? The forensic professional helps the investigator. Say there is a dispute. The forensic professional will help the investigator to find where the money has been lost. I am sure all the participants, they must have read newspapers where the newspapers say that a 5,000 crore fraud has happened. Now say a 5,000 crore fraud has happened, that means money has not vanished in thin air. 5,000 crore cannot be lost. It's not that 5,000 crore, they flew away. That 5,000 crore has to be represented by some asset. It has to be consumed. It has to be spent somewhere. This is where the forensic professional's role comes into play, that he or she helps in finding the money. And our unique skill set that we have, our unique skill set that comes into play. Professional skepticism, cross-domain reach. Now, chartered accountants are very uniquely placed. We understand all types of business, banking, manufacturing, NBFC, real estate, entire spectrum. And we also understand technology. These days, the new age chartered accountants who are coming, they have a very good understanding of technology. Mind you, for a forensic practice, whether in employment or if you want to practice on your own, you need to have the broad understanding of law, technology, accounting, psychology, communication skills. All these cross-domain knowledge is required, a lot of which chartered accountants are already expert into by virtue of their training. The next part, please understand, a very strong part is the ICAI's ecosystem. So we already have more than 10, 12 years old course. We already have forensic accounting and fraud detection. We have a forensic accounting and fraud detection course. That is, it is a certificate course in forensic accounting and fraud detection. The ICAI certifies you that you have qualified forensic accounting and fraud detection course. It's a post-qualification course. We also have something called as world's first forensic accounting standard. World's first forensic accounting standard. Now, what do we mean by the world's first forensic accounting standard? Please understand, the forensic accounting and investigation standards. Let me explain that with help of an example. Please note that earlier, when we used to conduct an investigation, I was part of a lot of forensic investigation. I've done more than 200 investigation. So when we used to do an investigation, say a high profile investigation that we did, now once we completed that investigation, we used to get questions. And what was those questions? The questions were that whether we have done our work properly or not. Say if we have investigated to 2 layers or 3 layers or 4 layers, then we get a question that why have we investigated to 4 layers? We also get a question as to why did we need to go so deep till 4 layers? Why didn't we stop at 3 layers? So because of all these issues, we used to face problems. Now, this problem, to address this problem, ICAI published something called as Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards, which benchmarks the practice as to how much work a professional needs to do, minimum work expected from a professional. And it's a landmark standard which is well recognized and sought after by the world over. Please also understand that ICAI is in process of converting the certificate course, Forensic Accounting and Fraud Detection, to a proposed diploma course, where this can be full-fledged, like DISA, Diploma in Information System Audit. We'll be having something called as Diploma in Forensic Investigation. It is with the Ministry but a lot of work is being done on that. Now, where do the professionals get work from, or where can the professionals get work? Now, if you see financial crime, it's not a single career track, neither it is cyclical. It has its own demand drivers because it is regulatory. So it has its own demand drivers and professional requirement. These are some of the roles that I have put it. Of course, corporate investigation is a huge role, which is not there, which we'll be putting. So first is regulatory and compliance. The AML KYC compliance functions. It's very basic. Transaction monitoring function, suspicious transaction reporting, regulatory examination support, PMLA and FATF alignment work. So we have the FATF framework where we have 40 recommendation that is married with PMLA, and we have professionals required for that. Next, we have the core forensic investigation. That is the financial fraud investigation, asset tracing and recovery, digital forensic supports. Then we have appointment by SFIU, ED, CBI, where they require professionals to help them. There are also a lot of private sector companies which have corporate misconduct. Say you have a large retail petrol pump chain. We have large retail petrol pump chain. Now they are having 10,000 petrol pump across the country. If one of the petrol pump is stealing, they will appoint a forensic professional to do the investigation. We also have a new area, which is the disputes resolution and arbitration. In this, the professional can act as expert witness in commercial dispute. Like, I'll tell you, the second one, if you see, quantum of loss calculation, I'll tell you, we did an engagement where we were appointed by a client for calculating the insurance loss. The client claimed that 25 crore of his stock was destroyed in fire. Whereas the insurance company was telling that no, the value of stock destroyed is only 9 crore. So it is places like there where we come into play, where we see the trend, we see the machine capacity, we see the raw material, we see the stock, we see the yield ratio, and we come upon an amount that this is the amount of loss. So it is called as quantification of loss. Now, in a lot of disputes, arbitrators are appointed. These arbitrators do reconciliation and conciliation. Not reconciliation. These arbitrators do something called as conciliation and mediation. So a professional, forensic professional, helps the arbitrator in coming to the right amount, coming to the right figure. We also have NCLT, NCLAT forensic reports, where there are matters of insolvency, where there is matter of disgorging of money by, say, majority shareholder. In all these types of corporate dispute, we require a forensic professional. Next, what we have are the court-appointed roles. So in court-appointed roles, we have liquidator and resolution professional. We have forensic auditor. Now, why I have used the word forensic auditor here? Because courts still use the word forensic auditor. Regulators still use the word forensic auditor. We have receiver administrator, and we have investigation under IBC, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. So under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, we have something called as transaction audit. In the transaction audit, a forensic professional has to give his or her independent report. Now, what is expected? Court-appointed roles are huge. What is expected? In commercial court, it is quantification. In securities litigation, it is valuation. In insurance claim, it is loss quantification. Family partition matters, divorce matters, professionals are needed because one of the spouse levels allegation that he or she is not bringing all his assets in this. So these reports must withstand, the report that the forensic professional gives must withstand the scrutiny of law. So these reports should witness scrutiny of law, and they are to be issued by the forensic professional. Arbitration also. So arbitration have more than 5,000 arbitration per year. It is estimated that more than 5,000 arbitration. So chartered accountants can help in quantification. Say there's a construction project, so in quantification, international arbitrations are coming a lot. Court appointed function we just discussed. Generally, these chartered accountants are appointed by CBI, Enforcement Directorate, SFIO. All these agencies appoint chartered accountant for the work. Now, what are the skill set? Particular skill set that are expected from the professionals. So we have data analytics, investigation technology, communication skills. Okay, these are the skills that are expected. So advanced Excel, pivot analysis, data modeling, and now with AI, you can do all these things. Basic SQL, data visualization, AI-assisted anomaly detection. Then in investigation technology, you have network linkage, digital evidences, crypto, because ultimately all the evidences has to be extracted from system, computers. Then you require communication skills, structured report writing, because that is very important. Your report is used as evidence in court of law. Presentation to board, regulators, legal counsel, judges. Then you have to ensure that the report that is written, it is mapped with the law. It is mapped with the law because all your reports will be subject to cross-examination. It will be subject to cross-examination. Now, there are certain skills which we are very strong in, like financial statement reading, regulatory framework awareness, documentation, working paper discipline, because this we are doing so from very beginning. But there are certain areas which we need to little bit be, we have to strengthen our knowledge base, like the fraud typology, the money laundering schemes knowledge, hypothesis-led development, how to develop the hypothesis, how to investigate the case, and data analytics beyond basic Excels. We also have to understand little bit about law, the legal report writing, expert witness preparation, so on and so forth. So this is also required of the professional. Now, if you see the ICAI's ecosystem, first, post-qualification, you can do something called as FAFD, Forensic Accounting and Fraud Detection, Certificate Course in Forensic Accounting and Fraud Detection. This is FAFD. Okay. Now, here we have 7 days of training. Of course, the course is there on the website, which you can see. It helps you to train how to investigate financial crime. Now, your target should be that within couple of years of your qualification, if you are interested in this domain, then you can do this qualification. This qualification will help you stand out from the routine chartered accountant. Say both you and me apply for the same position. You have this specialized qualification. I don't. Of course, you will be selected first. Next, graduating from FAFD, you have to have a deep understanding of something called as FAIS, Forensic Accounting and Investigation Standards. Now, this is practitioner level document which covers the entire life cycle of investigation. It covers the entire life cycle of investigation. You start with first case, you start with how you get the engagement, and you end with the report. Okay, it standardizes right from assignment acceptance till issuing the report. It helps you at every field. The third level that we have is the advanced diploma in forensic investigation. Now, this is a proposed course. It's not available right now. It is still undergoing certain statutory processes at ICAI. But this will be migrating the FAFD to a diploma level course, and the rigor of learning this will be increased significantly. The rigor of learning will be increased significantly, and this will come in next, I don't know, probably a year or so. I really don't know. I'm not, it is not my place also to say, but this will be elevating the credential more. And this is the next outcome. please understand the FAFD qualification that ICAI gives, it is conducted in classroom. Now there are very few institutes, almost none in the world, which have classroom training for forensic education, except for universities. You can get only in universities, but not a lot of accounting bodies train the professionals in a classroom fashion. So this qualification will help you to stand out. Okay. With this, a very quick point which I'll tell, that chartered accountants are at an inflection point. The profession is moving from validation of numbers to interpretation of financial behaviors. The market exists, demand is already there, and ICAI is helping you in all these endeavors. It is you who has to decide, who has to select as to what exactly you want to do. Okay, it's a bright future. The profession is very good. This domain is very good. And I am aware of a lot of people who are doing this, who are into this practice. Over to the moderator. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, we can close that. I have already spoken for my 30 minutes. I probably got early. Anand ended it a little bit early. So I have finished my 30 minutes. Over to you, the moderators.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Your one question for you, sir.
Hmm.
What are the key challenges faced while gathering evidence and ensuring its admissibility legal proceeding?
See, admissibility in legal proceeding is a different ball game. So there are huge lot of challenges. The biggest problem is that the professional faces hostile client. In most of the cases, when the professional goes, he or she is not welcomed. The client is hostile. So you have to be sharp. You have to be sharp and you have to ask sharp questions. You have to be very vigilant in collection of data. In fact, I follow a maxim that write whatever you do. Whatever you do, write it. And whatever you write, please do that. Write what you do what you write. Regarding admissibility, a good knowledge of the Indian Evidence Act, now changed, Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam, a good knowledge of Bharatiya Sakshya Adhiniyam is required so that you can decide upon and understand the admissibility of the evidence. It's not simple like copies, primary evidence, secondary evidence. All these concepts needs to be understood before issuing a report. So you have to be cautious. There's no straitjacket formula. It totally depends on case to case basis. But yes, this biggest challenge is availability of records and availability of data. It's not easily available. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. One last question. What are the common red flags that professionals should look for while conducting a forensic audit?
See, I'll tell you now, at the moment we say forensic audit, it becomes a huge domain. And red flags are different in different industry. So what is the investigation that you are doing? The red flags depend on that. If you're looking at financial statement fraud, then you'll be having cash crunch, you'll be having fictitious assets, you'll be having fictitious sales, you'll be having fictitious purchase. You'll be having increasing in number of days of receivable, increasing in number of days of payable. All these are red flags if you're doing financial statement fraud. If you're doing inventory falsification, then you will be finding discrepancy in the inventory record. You'll be finding inventory falling short. You'll be finding slow moving inventory. You'll be finding wrong entries, and there are n number of ways. So you cannot have a simple red flag playbook for all types of cases. It totally depends what is the case you are investigating, what are you doing, what is the industry, what is the psyche, and then we can go to the red flags. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for sharing valuable industry's perspectives. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining today's session and making these days meaningful. Thank you.